Hi, how's everyone doing? Is the audio all right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Farhan.
Thank you. So we will start in a bit. Again, there are very few participants right now, so we will have to hold off for at least a few more minutes. What I can do is I'll share the link for today's notebook. So the link for W3S1, which is today's session, is in the chat box right now. And I had another important announcement to make that I'll probably make at the end of the session about Slack channels. But let's just get this notebook open in Collab. This isn't going to look very different from the notebook that we were using on Friday and then Monday, but there are some additional cells and some of the code is already filled in. So grab this notebook and open it in Google Colab, and I'm doing the same.
Can you ping that link?
Oh yeah, uh, one second. It's in the chat box now, right? And after opening the notebook, let's run through step 1 through 10, 11. Yeah, step 1 through 11 are already filled in, so let's quickly execute that. Right, so I'm also executing. You can also execute these cells because this is what we had already done by Friday. And we had tried a few things which I have removed those cells where we were just trying out things simply. For example, there were three different approaches to dynamic programming. The first two didn't really work. So I have removed them. So it's a cleaned up version of Friday's notebook with additional cells at the bottom. Okay, so I'm assuming that we are all done executing these steps. I'm going to backtrack a little bit to where we were on Friday because not everyone was present in Monday's session. So we were right here using dynamic programming. This was the equation that we were trying to implement. We tried three different approaches, at least that were present in the notebook. The first one had self recursion. We got rid of that somehow. Then we got into mutual recursion, and then we decided that the best way to deal with that was to simply not use recursive equations at all. So what we decided was we will still be using this equation, but if you look at this return, you know, sorry. So instead of using this function, a function over here for computing the return, we will always refer to the table, right? And that meant slightly adjusting the way we constructed the table. So now we were filling all the values with zero initially, and these could be arbitrary values as well, but starting with zero makes it a little bit easier to debug things. So we just start with zero, fill everything with zero, and then if you look at the compute returns function which we were using, uh, this took an state, an action pair, and then it found the next state and the reward, and then using the next state, and by trying all the actions possible in the next state, it was trying to fill up the value in this table, right? The difference from previous implementations was that this time we were not calling this function again. So there is no recursive call over here. All we are doing is table lookup, and this is working uh, because there are already values in the table. So whatever value there is, we know it's not correct in the beginning, but whatever value, if it is zero or something else, that just gets returned, right? So technically it's working. It's not running into any indefinite recursion or anything. But now what we need to do is we need to loop over this table because there's no recursion. So we need to make sure we are updating each state action pair. So we need to loop over the table, and we did that in this cell, and we saw that some of the cells in the table get updated. They are not zero anymore. But of course this is not going to give you the right policy in one go, right? Because we are just updating a state based in terms of the its neighboring state or its next state, but we know that the next state itself will get updated sooner or later, right? So we need to perform the same process again and again, and that is what we were doing here, sort of doing this on Friday and then on Monday, that we just ran this process over 50 times, and we kept checking for convergence. And in 9 iterations or so, we reached a point where the values in the table had stabilized, and we felt that we didn't need to run this anymore, right? So this is what the table looked like with 9 iterations. Okay. The next thing was we wanted to evaluate how well this table corresponds to the actual returns. Does it give you the right returns for every state action pair, and can you use those return values to guide an agent, an algorithm, to go from the starting state to the end state? And what we did was we implemented this function, greedy policy from returns table. The idea was very simple. We will go to any state and pick the best action, the action with the highest return, and we will be executing that action for every state. And the policy for this table looked something like this. It was still a little difficult to understand if the policy is right or not. So we just implemented a pretty print function that will just overlay the policy on top of the field, and this is the result that we got, right? So if you go back and look at what we're doing, we build a table. From the table, we derived a policy. A policy was enough. If you just wanted to execute the policy, you could, reset your uh, foosball class, or the object that we had created, and then we would be in state zero. You will pass it action E, and action E will take you to state one. Then in state one, you will execute south, and that will take you to state five, and in five you will execute state east. So if you just wanted to execute this policy starting with the initial state, this was enough. But we did this because we wanted to sort of debug and understand if the policy is correct for every state action pair or not, or for at least every state or not. Right. So this overlay sort of told us that no matter where you started on the board, the policy was still correct. So this was sort of solved at this point, right? The problem, we had solved it with sort of a variation of dynamic programming using an iterative approach, updating the table multiple times until it converges. Um, but wasn't really the goal, because what we were chasing was being able to learn things. And the reason we hadn't applied any sort of learning at this point was because we were sort of cheating. We were looking inside the game, the implementation of the game, or the implementation of the environment, and we had information like we were able to use APIs that told us which state actions are which different states are present, the number of states, the different transitions, the rewards, and everything. So all this information was known to us upfront. So we tried to make the problem more realistic. So we said we are going to hide these two APIs, which meant we are not going to, they will be available, but we are not going to use these APIs. And then we have to somehow find out what those different states are and what the rewards look like corresponding to each of the state transitions, right? And we decided that we will do this by playing the game or by interacting with the environment, right? And to do that, we wrote a function, collect random episode, very simple function. It will start in the beginning by resetting the game, and then it will take just random actions. So this is the list of actions, and it was sampling those actions, and we call this collect random episode. And every time you ran this function, it returns you a different episode, right? This episode is nothing but a list of experiences, because it's telling you which states you were in, which actions you took. Of course, those actions were random, but then what was the outcome of the action in terms of the next state and the reward, right? And the idea was that then we are going to use this information to fill up the table, because you have a sequence of states and actions, and it has the sequence terminate in one of the terminal states. So we should be able to compute the return for the entire list of state and actions. And that is what we did with discounted returns from episode. And every time you pass it an episode, it gives you a list of all the states you have visited, all the actions you have taken, and then the discounted returns. So these are not rewards, these are discounted returns starting in the first state, then the second state, and third state, and so on. This is something we have already sort of gone over. Uh, and then the idea was that now we are going to use lots of episodes, because we know that this one episode is not going to be representative of the return that you will get, because everything depends on the sequence of steps. If at this point I have taken step, I have tried to execute east in zero. If I'm following a different route, I might take a different. Uh, I, I could still take east here, but I can try to take a different action down the line, and that changes everything. So even if one of the steps changes here, the return for each of the states changes, right? And this is all random at this point. So we didn't want to rely on a single episode. And what we did over here was we constructed a table that we filled with zeros. This is a table we wanted to fill. And we constructed another table where we tracked the number of times we were in a state and action pair. And then we just went ahead and created lots of episodes, in this case 100 episodes. And from each episode we got lots of state, action, and discounted returns, and we use those values to fill up the table again, right? So we filled up the table. The difference is this time we are taking random actions. Previously we were using dynamic programming. When you convert this table into a policy, so it doesn't quite look like what we had earlier, right? So this is no way the optimal policy. It doesn't even take you to the goal state starting in the this initial state, right? So it's clear that it's not working. And we sort of also know the reason, because we are taking random actions all the time. So we have updated this table based on episodes, and those episodes were generated by taking random actions at every point. So the next idea we had was, the whole purpose of constructing this table is to get us the best action for every state. So why don't we use the same table when we are generating those episodes, right? And that was the idea for step 12, which we tried on Monday. So the idea was very simple, that if you look at, first of all, we need to implement a function, this one, which we are going to call collect greedy episode, which is just going to return us the best action for every state, right? So we are passing it a table, and we are also passing it a max episode length, because we realize that if you want to collect a greedy episode, So you will start with the initial state, then you will take whatever action the table tells you is the best in that state. And because the table might not be optimal in the beginning, we might get stuck at some point. So we might end up taking an action that brings us back to the same state. And to get out of such a scenario, we pass an additional parameter, maximum episode length. So we will anyway stop the execution if we have 20 state action pairs in our episode, right? I'm going to show you the code for this because this is something that we sort of did on Monday, but I still want to walk everyone through what the code looked like, right? So the difference was that earlier when we were generating random episodes, this used to be a while loop, and we broke out of the while loop whenever this done flag was true. But now we need to keep a for loop because obviously we don't want to loop more than this number, right? And there is still a check for done. So if the episode is shorter than the maximum episode length, we are still stopping earlier. But the real difference is over here. So now instead of just picking a random action out of all the possible actions, we see which state we are in. We take out the entire row from the table corresponding to that state, and then we were picking the index with the maximum corresponding to the maximum value in that row. So what this meant is that, for example, if the state was 12, so I had all these return values, right? These return values, and the largest one was this one, minus 3.37. And when we call idx max, that basically gives us the column name corresponding to this value, which would be east, right? So that is why we are using idx max over here, and what you get here
But
is the name
one
of an action.
question.
Yeah.
This max EP length is equal to 20. It's going to ensure that number of episode in each episode the length is only 20 steps, right?
Right,
But it
right.
doesn't guarantee that 20, taking 20. Does it guarantee that I'll reach within 20
No,
steps?
no, it
No.
absolutely doesn't guarantee. Uh, this is there are two things. One, this is a hyperparameter that we have to set appropriately. We will see that a little later, but probably this
So
needs to be, yeah,
uh, we might not even hit the 19th row, right? We
right.
might like
We will not.
be up to.
Yeah, it's very. I'll actually show you after executing this code. I'll show you that when with using the table that we have in the beginning or at this
Mhm.
point, it will just get stuck in the first or second state somewhere.
Oh, okay.
If I run this and if I execute this, right? So this is we already have a table which is partially filled. So this is the table that we are consulting at this point. Let's see what happens here. So in state 0, it is telling me to go south. And if I go and look at the table, so south has the least negative or the highest return. So this seems all right. And going south would mean ending up in state 4. And that is where we are. Then in 4, it is telling me to go east. And if you look at the values, east indeed has the least negative or the highest return. Right. So then you can verify that that the other steps are also correct. But if you if instead of executing this because we already have a table which is sort of partially filled using the code over here, if I were to instead start with something like this, so empty tables which are just filled with zeros, right? So which will be the case now. Right. So what I changed is that now I'm starting with an empty table, which will what you will encounter in the beginning. So this is that empty table. This is the visit count table, which is again going to be all zeros, and I'm just finding and dividing the two to get the estimated returns, which are again going to be all zeros. And in that case, the your function is basically returning the same value. It's stuck in a loop because Now if you look at the table, it's all zeros. So when you try to find the maximum or the index of the maximum value, that will, because all the columns are zero, it will just pick up the first one, which is north, and we are in state zero, and north, we know we are going to get stuck here. So it just generates an episode which doesn't really give you a lot of information because you are stuck here, right? And we are going to address this in step 14. But in step 13, we thought, okay, let's try to replace our random episode generation, which was, which was what we were doing here. So let's try to specifically replace this line where we were using collect random episode, and let's replace this by collect greedy episode. Right? And this is again something that we tried on Monday, and the code isn't very different. I'm just going to show you in a moment. Right. If you compare this, so what has really changed is these two lines. And essentially, we wanted to replace this line. So now we have done that. We are calling this function to generate an episode. But then this function also requires you to pass the table, like the normalized table, which has the average return counts. So we have to add another step over here where we are doing exactly that. So find the estimated returns, pass it to this function that generates an episode using the table, and then the rest of the code is exactly the same. So we are finding discounted returns for state actions, and then we are filling up the table. So it's like you look up the table, use the table to find to generate an episode, and then from the generated episode find returns, and then update the table using those returns. And if I execute this, okay. Yep. So I have also changed the number of episodes, but you could also set it back to 100 and then verify that it doesn't really work. So the first thing we notice is that with this approach, the table isn't at all getting filled. Most of the rows and columns are still empty, and it doesn't make sense. We already know the policy is not going to look good, and this is how terrible it looks right now. Right. And if you think about why this isn't working, we shifted away from random actions. But again, this is something we should be intuitively clear that the table does not have useful information in the beginning. And we start to refer to the table and use the values and take actions based on those values. So again, that is not going to lead us in the right direction. So although the random approach is not good, the purely table-based approach is not good either. Actually, it fares poorer because you don't even get to fill most of the entries. Okay, so what do we want to do next? The first thing we want to do is give these approaches names. So the one where we were just picking a random action, that is called exploration, because you're just letting the algorithm or the agent explore the environment, try out different things, try out random arbitrary actions, and see what happens. And that is what is generally known as exploration. The other approach, the one that we just tried, is based on exploiting information in the table, and that is why it's known as exploitation. So we have tried both pure exploration and pure exploitation, and neither of them gives us very good results. So what we are going to do is, based on our intuition, is that we will start out purely random. So we'll take actions randomly, arbitrarily, but then gradually we will move away from being random to referring to the policy, right? Referring to the table. And that is what is known as the epsilon greedy approach. Uh, you can look at the description for step 14. There is a typo that I want to correct. Yeah. So I'll walk you through the approach. Right. So what is the idea here? So if you look at the description, and suppose you are in any state S, and there will always be four actions: north, east, west, and south. Right. What we want to do is we want to again sample from these four actions. So we want to pick one of these actions, but we don't want to sample uniformly like we were doing over here with the random, right? With random episodes, we were sampling from all possible actions, but we were just doing this uniformly. So every action had the exact same probability of being picked up. And that is what we want to change. What we want to do instead is we want to construct another list or another array uh, with uh, with different probabilities basically, right? So the idea is that what we will do is we will have a small value that way we are going to call epsilon. This represents a probability, so this is going to be like zero point 0.1 or something, and this small value is will allow us to include some randomness, right? So what we want to do is we want to take this small value and then divide it over all the non-optimal actions. So all the actions which that do not have the highest return, they get a piece of this small epsilon value. And then the remaining probability, which will be one minus epsilon, that will be that will be the lion's share that will go to the correct action, right? So specifically, for example, in this case, if we assume that west is the best action, so if you look at the table and suppose it says that west has the highest return, then according to the table, west should be picked up, right? But we don't want to have a purely table-based approach, so we just want to have higher probability for west, but we still want to have some small probability for other actions, which would be north, east, and south, right? And
So yeah,
one way.
here by doing this, we are not still. Our idea was to initially start with random values and then later on pick the greedy part where you maximize, you go for the maximum return, right? But by doing this probability thing, in the beginning phases, we are not guaranteed to pick up random values. And randomness is like, yeah.
We will actually come to that in the next step. So you can think of it as being somewhere in the middle. So at this point, this is not purely random, and also this is not purely table based. So at this point, this has a probability associated with every action. The best action is still more likely to get picked up, but there is still some remaining probability that allows the other actions to get picked up occasionally.
So at least we should have a, all 0.25, all equal probabilities. Let it pick up whatever initially for some
Right.
100.
That is exactly what we will do. We will start with 0.25. We will start with a uniform probability, and then over time it will look more and more like this. So where one of the elements will just keep growing its probability, the rest of them will get smaller and smaller, and we'll probably never want it to look like where all the other elements are zero and only one element is one, but we'll make sure that over time this trend continues, so the correct action that gets more and more chunk of the probability, and all the incorrect actions or suboptimal actions, they get lesser smaller chunk of the probability. And we are going to exactly do that in step 14. But I just want everyone to understand this. This is nothing like it's not a new concept. The idea here is that if you have an array like this, then you can go back to using the same API, which was numpy.random.choice. Let me show you. So when you do np.random.choice, if you look at the if you look at sorry, yeah, So if you look at the parameters for this function or this API, it takes an array A, which is of course the array from which you want to pick values. So this will be the array of actions. So it will be a list or array with south, east, north, and west. And then there is another parameter p over here, which is default. By default this is none, but now we are going to set it, and this is going to be the probability, the array of probability that we just looked at. Right, so this will let us make non-uniform selection. So we will preferably pick elements which have higher probability. This is the whole idea. And the first thing we want to do is implement this thing. We need a new function that can give us random episodes, or it's not random, which can give us epsilon greedy episodes, right? So that is basically sampling from the action space, which is the four actions, but using this array over here, something that looks like this, right? And this has to be constructed for every state, because for every state the action corresponding to the maximum return will be different. So it may not be w every time. So let us now take some time, implement this, and then we will use this function. We will just go back to code that looks like this, but then we will replace this function call with this function call that we are going to implement, and that should ensure that we can be either purely random or purely table based, or a blended version. Because if you look at this, if we were to make epsilon equal to 1, then all the values are going to become epsilon by 4, which is purely uniform probability. And on the other hand, if you make it 0, then everything else becomes 0 except the largest value, which is going to be 1, which is purely table based approach. So value whichever value that whichever action the table tells you is the best, you always pick that action. And if you set epsilon to somewhere in between, then you can have a blended version. So let's try to implement this. It shouldn't be, you can copy some of the code from the previous implementations where we were using greedy approach or epsilon or random approach, and make the necessary changes here. And the change is just going to be a few lines of code. So let's take 5 minutes or so and try to implement this. Okay, so if we just look at the comments that are there in this function, the to-dos, first thing we need to do is just basically generate this array or list of probabilities. So something like this is, I just take out all the actions, which I can just take from the table, the column names of the table, because it's a pandas data frame. And then there are different ways to do this, but I'm using this piece of code, which I will explain in a second. So let's say epsilon is 0.1. So I want to distribute that epsilon over all the actions. So I'm dividing it by the length of the action space, right? But what I really want to do is I want to construct this list with 4 different members and all the members. So epsilon by 4 is common to all the 4 members. So I want to first initialize it with epsilon by 4. So instead of having just one element, I can have 4 elements. Okay, so this is basically Python syntax for creating a copy of a list, right? So with this much alone, we had a list with just one element. If you multiply it by a number, and I multiply it by the length of the actions, then you get, sorry, I haven't really defined actions. So let's say actions are north, east, west, and south, right? This is what it looks like. So it's getting divided by the length of the actions, right? This is epsilon by 4 in all forces, right? This is this bit of code. Now the other thing we need to do is we want to find out which one is the best action for this state. We don't know what this state is, but let's assume that the state is, let's say, 4, right? And what I want is I want to find out the index of, I want to look at all the values corresponding to the state, the return values, and then I want to uh, pick sort of the index, or the column, or the column number for which that value is there. So greedy action. Sorry. This should be, what was the estimated return? Sorry. Right. So what is going on is, I look at the table, go to the row corresponding to this state, which I have just arbitrarily set for to 4, just for a demo, and then there is a little difference compared to what we were doing earlier. So earlier we just wanted the, when we were taking the max, we just wanted the column header, which was either north, east, south, or west. Now we want the column values, uh, the numeric index of the column, so 0, 1, 2, or 3 corresponding to north, east, west, or south. And why do we need the numeric value, I'll tell you in a moment. But one way to do that is called dot values, which just gives you a numpy array from, if we are looking at state 4, so these are the values. So just convert these values into a numpy array, and then we call np.argmax, which gives you the position of the highest value, and that is what is getting printed. So in this case, because all values are 0, it doesn't really make sense. So let's try to set it to 0 perhaps. Right now it says 3, and 3 would mean south, which still makes sense because south is 0, rest of the numbers are negative. So this is the idea. This is just finding the index of the best action. So what we want to do next is find that index, that greedy action index, and then change its probability, and we add 1 minus epsilon to the existing value, right? So we already constructed this array. Now we are just updating this single value in that array by adding 1 minus epsilon. So now this is going to look like this array where one of the values is larger, the others are all epsilon by 4. Right. The next step, of course, is going to be sampling from this the array of actions, but using the other array, the array of probabilities, right? This is what I was talking about. We are still using numpy.random choice. These values, you can call them actions or table.columns. Right. So these are the actions that we created here. But now we are also passing the action probabilities, which are going to look different depending on the value of epsilon that we pass to the function. Right. So this is a sampling part. The rest of the function is going to look exactly the same because now that we have an action, we are going to feed this action into the step API. Right. So we just call a step, and now we pass this epsilon greedy action that we computed over here. We pass this action, and out we get the next state, the reward, and the done flag, which is just being appended to the list of the list that we're calling episode. Right. And if you were to run this and this, right, so right now I'm passing an epsilon value of 1, which means it's equiprobable. All the actions are equiprobable. So every time I run this, I'm going to get a different episode because this is exactly the same thing that we implemented in the beginning, which was a purely random sampling based episode generation. Right. I can also set epsilon to 0, and then every episode is going to look exactly the same because now there is no randomness at all. Right. So this is based on the table. This is no matter how many times this runs, you will get the same answer. If you set epsilon to a more sensible, a smaller value, then you will see some variations. So this is one instance. Run it again, and this is totally different. Run again, and there will be, depending on the value of epsilon, you will see changes in the output you are getting. Right, so if you run it again and again, and we also have to think about, so right now when I'm running it again and again, occasionally you get the same answer multiple times, and that is because epsilon is small. If you think about the probabilities of the individual actions, epsilon is being smeared over all those other actions, while this value 1 minus epsilon is really large. So it is still largely table based, and we will fix that in a moment. Right. But hopefully this is clear to everyone because now we are going to just plug this into our old code. Right. So this is exactly the code that we ran a little earlier, where we were filling table based on generating episodes and then getting a state action and discounts from there. The only difference is this call over here. Now we are calling the collect epsilon greedy episode versus the earlier approach when we were just generating pure greedy episodes, or before that when we were generating just random episodes. So let's try to run this. There is no change here, so except for this line. So one thing is clear, now we are visiting a lot more states. There aren't as many zeros as there were initially. Of course, terminal states will still be filled with zeros. This is the policy. And you can change this. You can go back, change the value of epsilon right now. the epsilon that we were using over here. So, right. So I'm not passing a value of epsilon, which means it's using the default value of 0.1. So you can try increasing the value of epsilon to see, to have more randomness, or you can try decreasing it. You can also change the number of episodes to see if you get a better policy or not. Right now, it is not as bad as what we had previously, but even now there is nothing sensible coming out of it. It doesn't really tell me what to do. So all the arrows seem to be pointing in random directions. Right? We can try with them, say 3,000 episodes. And it will take a time because 3,000 episode means 3,000 calls to the other function. Right. So while this is executing, what we want to do next is, this isn't still working perfectly. What we want to do is what we discussed earlier. The strategy was to start out purely random, which means uniformly random, and then eventually tweak the probabilities so that most of the randomness disappears. We still might want to have a little bit of randomness, but that array of probabilities should be, when you have trained for a fair bit, then it should look like most of the probability value should be nearly zero, but one of the values should be really big and close to one. Right. So this is done. Yep. So the policy has changed, but we can't really compare this one and the previous one because not for a single cell, the policy is telling you how to take, which decisions to take and how to correctly reach the goal state. Right. So let's jump to this part over here. Uh, this is something that we need to implement. Most of this can be copied from the previous cell. Uh, So read through the instructions. The idea is that we have introduced some new variables. So number of episodes was already there, but now epsilon is being set to 1, and this is the value that we want to pass to the function as well, because you have to remember to pass it to the function because by default it picks a value of zero point 0.1. So this is the value of epsilon. We also have a variable called minimum epsilon. This is, you know, when, like I said, we don't totally want to get rid of randomness. So this is that remaining bit of randomness, right? So in the beginning, we want to start with a value of zero point 0.1, but then over time, we want to reduce it to something like sorry, in the beginning, we start with 1, and then over time, we bring it closer to zero point 0.1. And this is how we do it. So there is a multiplier that we're calling epsilon decay. So after every episode, you multiply the current value of your epsilon by this multiplier, and that gives you the updated value of epsilon, right? And then you need to compare that updated value against zero point 0.1. So if it is larger than zero point 0.1, then you just use that value. If if it drops below zero point 0.1, then you still want to use zero point 0.1 because we don't want to abandon randomness totally, right? So now this will take a little bit of effort. It's not a lot of new code, but implementing it correctly will require a few lines of code. So let's take 10 minutes and let's divide ourselves into breakout rooms and try to implement this thing and see if we are getting a policy that looks substantially better than any of the previous three approaches or not. So I'm just trying to open the breakout rooms. We'll take 10 minutes and try to implement this function and also run it and see, you can try changing the number of episodes and see the sort of results you can get from it. Okay, so I can see many of you are back from their breakout room. So were you able to implement the algorithm? Did you get decent results with it? Did you try to tweak any of the parameters?
Yeah, so we tweaked this n episodes to 5000 and also this epsilon decay from 0.999 to double nine.
Okay.
But still we don't get that, of course, I think
Right.
there's still work pending. So I think I and Raghavendra were discussing, and there were a few issues in the way we are doing this. One is
Mhm.
we are starting with an all zero table all the time. Every time we are starting with an all zero table, right?
Uh,
Instead, if we
it,
start with a very small random value,
yeah.
then over a period of time it will build the table, and our random choices will will propagate things, and at some point greedy will switch over to greedy more and more, and
Mhm.
then that will lead us to the right result, could lead us to the right result. That's one
Okay.
thought.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think we can try that. The thing is that because we are totally random in the beginning, so it doesn't, it's not going to look very different because even if you initialize it with different small values, because you are totally random, those initial small values
But
don't really matter.
even if you pick up with some randomness, it's still you're picking up all the zeros only, right? Because the table is full of zeros.
Right.
So that's why we are not hitting any different rewards, different returns. We keep on.
No, so that won't happen. You should actually try to print the state action and discounted return. So the table is initially zero, but the moment you generate an episode, that episode, the returns from that episode, they are not going to be zero. No matter what the table is filled with, no matter whether that episode
Correct.
is randomly or otherwise. So those are going to be non-zero values, which means let me actually share my screen.
No, that's right. But then the table, so the next time in the
Yeah.
n episodes, next episode will be with the previous value, is it?
No, no,
Or
no.
is the table reinitialized to zero again?
No, it's not reinitialized. The table gets updated because it's all in one cell.
Hmm.
So and that is the whole idea, that you keep updating the table as you go along. So every episode and then every step and action in that episode, that is going to update this table, the estimated returns table. You can of course look at the code. So what I'll do is I'll bring my code here and then I'll try to explain how this is working. But the idea is to keep the table updated because otherwise you are just relying on stale information. Right. So this is of course necessary because we need the intermediate value of the returns. So we divide the table that we constructed by the visit count, and we get these returns. Then we need to determine the epsilon of the value of epsilon, which, like I said, we have to find the maximum of the two. So the current epsilon if it has decayed, and the minimum epsilon. And then we are calling this function, which takes epsilon, and this produces an epsilon greedy episode, right? And after the episode is generated, we decay the value of epsilon, right? The rest of the code is again going to look very similar. So state, action, discounted, return. This is the code that we were using earlier, and then of course the update step, which is again copying it, but this is exactly the same that we were using earlier, right? So there is no change from 16 onwards 21. The only change is over here. Now what is happening over here is that this is where you are updating the table, and this is nothing but this table which was initially all zeros. So the moment you get a non-zero return, right, and the return doesn't really depend on the table, what it doesn't really care about what the table is. The return will depend on the actions you take and the rewards that you get from the environment. So the moment the first time you run this thing, that is going to make some of the values in your action table in your return table non-zero. So whatever state and action pairs get touched by an episode, the, whatever state and action pairs are part of an episode, their values will get changed from zero to something else, right? And that something else will be this return value. This is what we were discussing, right? So it's not going to be, it's not like you're going to get started from zero again. These are the values you will use the next time you are over here and you are generating a new episode, because this that is the whole idea. Now if I run this for 1,000 steps and look at the policy, it looks good compared to what we had previously, but it doesn't exactly look like the optimal policy that we had been when we had the inside information. We're looking into the private APIs. So this is the policy right now. It is from for the starting state. Of course, it gets stuck right over here. It doesn't take you further. But for some of the other states, for example, if you were to start over here, over here, over here, or anywhere in these cells, so it does seem to direct you to the right goal in an optimal way, right? Now we don't know why exactly we didn't get an optimal policy. We have made lots of changes. It could be that we are not having enough randomness. So you might want to determine if there is enough randomness or not. Maybe you are setting epsilon to 1, but then soon afterwards it becomes very small, and which will be point 0.1, and then at that point probably we are never going to visit some of the state action pairs because we are just following the table. Randomness has practically evaporated. And to test that, you can try higher values of epsilon. You can set it as high as you like and see if you get better results, right? You can also try by reducing the epsilon decay, which some of you did. So instead of reducing it so quickly, have a decay factor which is larger. Or maybe you want to decay it every few episodes instead of every episode, right? uh, and one thing you could do, which I was discussing in a breakout room, was that you can plot the value of your decayed epsilon. So whatever epsilon you are getting over here, plot this against the number of episodes and look at the plot and see after how many episodes it becomes really small. And that really small value will depend on the minimum epsilon value that you have set, but that gives you an idea of how many episode it takes for epsilon for most of the randomness to evaporate. uh, and the other thing is, how do we measure, uh, first of all, how do we determine if 1,000 episodes is the right value? Should we reduce it? Should we increase it? Should we let it train for a longer time? And one way to determine that would be to take the same approach that we were doing earlier, right? So after you have updated the table, keep a copy of the previous table, create a copy at the beginning of the episode, and then compare the two copies, take a delta, and then somehow get the magnitude of the delta, because that delta will be for every state action pair. So you want to get an overall picture of how much the change has been between before and after the episode, and see if and at what point during these 1,000 episodes your table starts to update much, right? So probably you don't even require 1,000 episodes with these settings. Maybe 100 is enough, right? So we need to determine that as well. And then of course you need to play with epsilon and see if it is at all, or it seems at all possible to get an optimal policy. Because this is based on randomness, so it's not going to be the case that every time you run it you will get an optimal policy. But can you get an optimal policy in say 1 out of 10 trials or not, right? So these are a few things that you will have to try, and this is super important because unless you try it multiple times, we won't have a good understanding of how these parameters are impacting, how quickly the algorithm learns, and then the quality of the learning that the algorithm gets, right? So you will have to play with the algorithm, with the parameters, and see their impact, right? For now though, we are going to look at a small improvement. That is, again, when you do these steps, specifically when you're going to see how much your table is getting updated after every episode, then there is a realization that the magnitude of the update gets smaller and smaller over time. And the reason is sort of right here. So in this step over here, right? So we are dividing whatever value you accumulate over time in every state action pair, you divide that by the visit count, right? And this division is a non-linear thing. So if you sum of three numbers, right, and you divide by 3, versus if you sum of 10 numbers and divide by 10, because 10 is much larger, So you can actually break this up. So right, so you can think of it in this way, that when you are dividing after you have filled up the table, so there is this value which was already in the table, plus there is the return value, and then you divide the whole thing by 10, and which sort of means that you are dividing the return value by 10, right? If you look at the most recent return value that was accumulated, that is also getting by 10 or 20 or 1000, whatever it is, whatever your episode, what is your whatever your visit count is, right? And that means that the further out, the more visits you have made to a state and action pair, and the higher its visit count is, the less impact this return value is going to have on the value that is already accumulated in the table, right? This should make sense, because you have something in the table, you are adding return, and then you're adding, dividing the whole thing by the visit count. So the visit count is also sort of dividing the return value, and that diminishes the contribution that the return value has over time. uh, the contribution makes to your table. So one of the simplest changes that we are going to do right now is to just
Hello, hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, we are not able to hear.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he,
I think he got disconnected. Uh, I'm sorry, there was a disruption because apparently my network dropped off. So just give me a second, please. Right. So what I was trying to explain, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, Farhan.
Okay. So sorry about the disruption, but what I was trying to explain was that this return is not going to be as effective as you go about filling the table and as the number of visit count increases, right? So one thing, this is something that others have observed over time, and this is something you are also going to observe when you try to, just take the delta and print that delta. And the solution for that is called constant alpha. And the idea is to get rid of visit counts at all, right? And that is what we want to implement over here. So first, what constant alpha is about, changing this update rule over here, right? The reason is that we are not going to have visit count anymore, but we still need somehow an accumulated average value or an accumulated value. We don't really want to average out at the end. We want our values to just accumulate in small steps, because we don't want to deal with the non-linear effect of visit count, right? And the idea is that if you look at this update, right, and this can be written without this shortcut. So this is really right. This is what your update equation is, and of course we want to get rid of this second step over here. Uh, so every time you update this by return, and eventually you divide that by visit count. So in that process, you are also dividing the return values by the visit count, right? And the whole idea is that instead of doing this, we can use an approach which is similar to what we saw with the car example, going back to the very first session that we had, right? So in the car example, if you remember, what we did was we wanted to make corrections to something, right? That was the steering angle. We wanted the right or correct steering angle. In this case, these are the state and these are the values in the table that we want to correct over time. And the idea was that there is a desired value and there is a current value, and you take their difference, and then you multiply that difference by a small number which you call the learning rate, and you use that whole multiplied thing, the whole term, to update the current value, right? And that is also similar to what we sort of do when we are training deep learning algorithms, that there is a derivative, a delta of some sort, that tells you how much to update something. You multiply that by a learning rate, and that is how you update that something. So we want to look at this update in light of what we know about such updates, right? So if you look at this, the left hand side, this is an estimate, or this is something that we want to be an estimate of the return value for state S and action A, right? So this is going to be an estimate built over several episodes, because we just keep accumulating things. On the right hand, if you look at this is how much we are updating by. This is again an estimate, but this is based on the most recent episode. This is based on experience collected during just one episode, right? So if we have two different estimates of the same thing, uh, you know, we want to update this existing estimate using the newest one, but we are aware of the fact that the new estimate is not very reliable, so we don't want to make a very large change to the current estimate, right? So one thing we can do is measure the delta. So instead of having this plus over here, we can do a minus. This gives us the difference between the two estimates. One estimate coming from several episodes, another estimate coming from just one episode, right? This is sort of the error that we computed when we were implementing the car, when we were trying to drive the car along the track, right? And then you can multiply this by some small value. Let's call it alpha. Multiply it by alpha, and then you change this value, right? So there will be this plus equal over there. So you want to update this existing value by taking the difference of the existing value and the newest value, and then multiplying that by alpha, right? Let's see if the sign is correct or not. Do we want to subtract in this fashion, or we want to subtract return from like put return on this side? So if, for example, if this value is larger than return, then your experience is saying that the return is higher, but your current return is lower, right? So probably you need to tweak your experience a little bit lower, right? So what you need is you basically want to decrease this value a little bit, because your most recent experience is saying that the return should be a little lower than what you are currently suggesting. So if you do this like this, then it would make the correct update. Because suppose this is higher, this is lower, then you have a negative value, which eventually makes this value a little bit smaller. On the other hand, if this is the current return is higher, the existing return is lower, then you want to bump up the existing return a little bit, in which case this will be positive, and multiplying it by alpha will still make it positive, and this will get updated by a small amount, right? And the hope is that if you do this incrementally in very small steps, then you basically do not need to divide by the visit count at all, right? This is something that we didn't do with the car example. This is something that we don't want to do here either, right? So this is what we want to implement with constant alpha. The rest of the algorithm is going to look like pretty much like what we had implemented earlier, but now just get rid of the visit count, get rid of the division everywhere. And because we don't have visit count, we need to update, we need to change the update rule. So it will be based on taking the difference of the current estimate and the new estimate, and then multiplying that by alpha, right? Is there any question about this, any confusion, anything you didn't understand? Otherwise we can go ahead and try to implement this and see it in action. So I just sort of showed you the pseudocode, or what the algorithm is going to look like. It will require us to have some sort of a new variable called alpha, but the rough idea is making these changes, and of course getting rid of this visit count over here. This is not required, so this is also not required, which means the eventual division over here, this is also not required. Okay, let's try to implement this, and then maybe we will have good questions. So again, let's take 10 minutes and try to implement this.
So I didn't understand why this helped actually. I do see that it helps and we are able to converge. We get a path which is short. I do see that, but I didn't. Oh no, not okay. For 1,000 it did not help, but I made it 5,000 and I see that it reaches. For last time I did it for 5,000, it doesn't reach, but for this time for 5,000 it does. But the question is, why did it? What is the problem in the earlier approach? You said that division is a non-linear function. You keep on adding the rewards or returns and then divide it. So the most recent one is not taking the higher effect. Right. The most recent update.
Yeah. Correct. That is what I said. I want to show it with a numerical example. So once again, so let's assume that in the first time, for some state and action, first time you got a reward of 1, and then the next time you got a reward of 1.1, right? So if you look at this, when you're computing the average reward, you will just sum this up and you will divide it by 2, right? And one way to write this will be the first reward divided by 2 plus the second reward divided by 2, right? Now suppose you take another step, you get a reward of 0.9. So eventually when you divide, accumulate the reward and divide, you get something like this. So this is 1 by 3 plus 1. Right. Now let's look at the update. So when you received the reward of 1.1 in the second step, you were accumulating 0.55, right? Because this is 1.1 divided by 2. This is by how much you are updating the table, right? Compare that with this value, which is going to be just 1/3 of the reward that you got in the current step, right? For the next step, this is going to be 1/4 of the reward that you get in the current step.
So if that is the case, no, we can have a filter in which you give higher weightage to the newer values and lesser weightage to the older values. If we do that, do you think it will help?
Yeah, it should. So it should sort of give equal weightage to every update. That is what we are. So
Sorry.
if I was dividing by 2 here, then perhaps it won't really work correctly, but dividing by 2 over here as well, because if this was telling me 0.55, then this would be 0.45.
So what if I do alpha into old value plus 1 minus alpha into new value?
Yeah,
right?
that
So
is
that 1 minus
right. That is exactly what this is going to look like. This is, if you expand this equation that we're talking about. So if you remove this and expand it and write it in this form, and then you take this part out, then this is alpha into your old value plus 1 minus alpha into your old value plus alpha into your return value.
Okay, this is just IIR filter, infinite impulse response.
Yeah. And this is what we want to implement here.
Yeah, it's more about a forget factor than forget.
Yes.
So initially we wanted randomness. We did that, but we don't want it to play a lot into my current decision. So I kind of start forgetting what I did, what I do last time, and take more and more of the current. I think we can work with 1000 episodes, but have a higher alpha.
Yeah, we can try with 1000. I don't think 1000 will give the correct results.
For me, 5000 gave the correct. 5000 with alpha 0.01 gives the correct results.
Correct result. And even that can, because this is still based on randomness, so you have to try out a few times to see if you're getting the right policy most of the times.
Okay, in this one thing I'm missing, we started with the left top corner and our aim was to reach the right top corner. We did zeros. We are not at all updating the the any row where there is an opponent. How are we
Yes. Uh, you won't be updating because that is a terminal state for you. For terminal state, it doesn't really make sense to update the return. It doesn't make sense to define a policy because you can't really take actions in terminal state. So they are automatically excluded because when you generate an episode, that is the terminal state, and the returns will be for everything that precedes the terminal state, but not the terminal state itself.
Okay, I can see that it does converge. N episodes 1000, alpha 0.03, it does converge. So it does reach the final thing.
Yeah, yeah. That is, I think, because this is very small, you are practically training the algorithm to find the shortest path. So it's able to do that with 1,000 steps. We will see how to get there even faster, perhaps, with two approaches that we'll try tomorrow. So instead of generating entire episodes, we will see if we can do a similar update, but at the end of every step instead of waiting till the end of every episode. Okay, so we were attempting to replace the update rule, right? We want an update rule where we don't have to divide by the visit count. And I was discussing an example, for example, this one over here. So assume that the return you got for some state action pair was one in the first try when it was visited for the first time, right? And then in the second attempt, on the second visit, you got a return of 1.1. Right. So what we were doing earlier was we were accumulating this and then divided by the return count, which would be 2, and then you can write it in this fashion. And in this case, the most recent return is contributing 1.1 per 2. Right, this is the contribution. This is by how much you want to update your table. If you visit the same state and action another time and you get zero point 0.9 as the return, then now you are dividing by 3. And again, if you expand this and you look at by how much you are updating the return table, that is going to be zero point 0.9 by 3. Right, so earlier it was division by 2, now it's division by 3. And as you keep going, this is going to get even smaller and smaller, more smaller. So this is like getting diminishing values every time the visit count gets up. Right? And this is what we sort of want to fix by removing the visit count, the necessity for visit count at all. Right? And that is what this other approach that we're calling constant alpha or constant learning rate, whatever you call it, that should do for us. In terms of what we want to do, I tried to explain that this this is how it should look like. Right? So you want to update these values. You start with the whatever value you currently have. Then you take the difference of the most recent return and the returns that you have accumulated over time, and you multiply that by a number, and then you add it to your current value. Right. If you try to implement it in terms of code, then it's going to look pretty similar to the previous approach, except that the other table is gone now. We have introduced alpha, which is by default set to 0.01. This is something which is a hyperparameter, and you want to try out different values. But now really there is not much of a change over here. The logic is pretty much the same. The update, this loop where you actually updated things, this has changed, and this is exactly what we discussed. Right? You if you want, you can remove this plus equal and then bring this term over here, but this is how they should look like. So this is the estimated return, which is built upon many episode. This is again another estimate of the return for the same state and action pair, but this is based on just one episode, and we are taking their difference, we are multiplying that by the learning rate, and we are using that to accumulate into the table. So when you do this, right, when we do this and then we look at the return value, if you look at the table, so this is right now we have set it this the number of episodes is 1000 and the alpha is zero point 0.1. Now these are things that we will have to tweak, but this is giving us results which are similar to what we were getting earlier, right? And we just want to see if we can get better results. You can try changing this to like 3000 or something. You can try to increase or decrease the alpha, but instead of doing this totally blindly, what I would recommend is again doing the same comparison. So plot out your epsilon, plot out your changes to the table for both the cases, the previous case and this case, and see how much your delta is, and see how fast you're converging and how many episodes you need, and tweak different values of alpha and see which one gets you the right policy most of the time. Right. This is again sort of getting closer. Still not there yet. You can try increasing alpha, try decreasing alpha, change the number of episodes to something like 5000. And the difference between step 16, where we were dividing by the visit count, and this one may not be very different in this case. The results may not look very different because over here we were just running for 1,000 episodes, right? And you could say, why are we doing 5,000 over here? So it's not strictly an apples to apple comparison. Maybe with 5,000 over here, you get a similar approach, you get a similar result. But the point is that if your visit count becomes really large, when you have 10,000 episodes, when you have 100,000 episodes, then it does start to matter. And the clearest way to understand that would be by plotting your delta over time. So look at the delta over here and look at the delta over here and see where it is saturating more quickly and how what sort of policy you get at that point. Right. Right. So with 5,000, in my case, with 5,000 and an alpha of 0.01, in this try, I got a policy which is very close to optimal. It is still not optimal because of these two states, but at least from the starting point, I have a policy that looks optimal. So the important thing here is going to be, your experience with tweaking these parameters, because the more complex we are going to make this problem next in the next session and the session after that, when we build things which are more dynamic, then it is going to be a lot more difficult to nail down the reason why the algorithm is not training or not training fast enough, right? So now is the right time. We have all the code. Please experiment with the parameters, see what gets you the best results, see if you can get even better results, if you can improve upon your own work, and then note down your findings somewhere, because this is going to be super crucial when we suppose we and next enable the opponents to move as well. Then it would be a lot more difficult to realize why the training process is not learning certain things, certain sort of behaviors, right? So for today, this is all we had to do. Now tomorrow's session is going to look a little different. So so far in all the sessions we had a considerable amount of starter code to begin with, and we had ideas. What we are going to do in tomorrow's session is that there are two well-known algorithms which are called SARSA and Q-learning. So we will look at the typical description from one of the textbooks that we are using of what the algorithm looks like, and we will implement those. And the difference, we are going to talk about the difference in tomorrow's sessions, but again, the reason we are switching over to SARSA or Q-learning would be to see if we can converge faster, if we can take fewer steps, if we can learn better policies in fewer iterations, taking fewer time, taking less time. Cool. Again, you would find the solution to today's notebook on the solution branch. You just have to go to the same week 3, session 1, and you can pick the solution from here. But again, I will highly recommend that we try this out. We try the different parameters and do a lot of debugging. More important than learning the algorithm is going to be the idea of what is going wrong. And you will only understand that when you get your hands dirty with these, at least the last two cells, right? So go over every line of code, make sure you understand how this is working, and also print things. You can print directly over here, or you can create a list and you keep appending the values or whatever you want to print, and then print at the end of the episode, but have a few plots below these cells, and then compare between algorithms, and also how well one algorithm is learning. What is it learning? What is it that it's finding hard? For example, if you see that there are certain state and action pairs that never seem to get updated, no matter they never get the right policy, no matter how many episodes you try. Right. So what is the reason? Is it like they are never visited because the table never lets you go there, right? Or is it some other reason? Find that out. Plot your epsilon, plot your policy, plot your delta, the table updates, and then get a good grasp of these things. Yep. So that is all what we had for today. If there are questions, I cannot try to answer them. And then I really want everyone to do this what we just discussed.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Thank you all. I do have one update about Slack, which is when I sent out the invites in the beginning, there were two types of invites. We sent out one invite which didn't work for everyone. Then we switched to another type of invite which sort of worked for everyone. They were able to join. So now that has resulted in a little bit of a mix-up where we have two different types of members in the channel. Right? There are members that can access any channel, any public channel, and there are members who are like who have only shared access to one particular channel that has been shared with them. So what I wanted to do was create a new channel where everyone has full access. I already did that. I have pinged everyone. If you joined using the second link, you should be all good. You should see updates from me in that new channel. It's a private channel. You will see the latest update. But if you joined using the first link that was sent out, you would have received a new email. This email would come to whatever email address you have used on Slack. So I don't have access to your official emails. This would be in your personal email, or if you just created a temporary email, so it would go there. Make sure you follow that link, and then you are able to join the new channel. I have renamed the old channel. We will get rid of it by next week or so, and then we will permanently switch over to the new one where we can. One of the biggest issue was that the older style channel, which was shared with some of you and which was some others had full access, it had it was going to go away because of the plan that we're using for Slack as a free plan. So after a while we would have faced difficulties. So if we can just migrate, I have tried to migrate everyone, but just make sure you check your email and you have access to the new channel. Right, and
Thank you,
what else do we
Farhan.
start? Yeah, please go ahead.
Uh, Thank you, Farhan. So the new channel is D in Action IST Quad 1, right?
Right, I gave it the same name so that there is no additional confusion. The old one which we were added to, I have put an old in front of it, and I have also updated, left a message in that channel that this will be deprecated and we are moving to a new channel.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool, thank you so much. All right, then I'll see you tomorrow, and please make sure you run the code and toy with the parameters for a bit.